Live from the Business RadioX studio in Atlanta, it's time for Dental Business Radio, brought to you by Practice Quotient. Practice Quotient bridges the gap between the provider and payer communities. Now here's your host, Patrick O'Rourke.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. This is your host, Patrick O'Rourke. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Practice Quotient, PPO analysis, negotiation, and strategic guidance for top-tier dentists and dental specialists, oral surgeons, endodontists. Practice Quotient is, if you are a top-tier provider and you do not feel like you are being reimbursed in an equitable way tied to your experience in type of high caliber of care that you deliver, you might want to have a chat. In fact, you should have a chat with the fine people at Practice Quotient. It's 470-592-1680, 470-592-1680, or practicequotient.com. So one of the things about this show, people are like, what's the show about, Pat? And I go, the deal is that when I came from corporate America, from the insurance world, and I got into the dental niche that, there's a lot of things I couldn't wrap my arms around. I didn't know what a dental supply company was. I didn't know what a practice management consultant was, et cetera. And what I found, though, is also that as far as the education of the financing of the delivery of healthcare, is specifically oral healthcare in this country, is also one of my favorite topics, but it's not something that's not widely understood within the provider community. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Right. So there's a few different ways. There's three different ways that you get paid if you're a provider. And happy 1/1 season to all of my colleagues and friends and professionals over there at the insurance industry, and to all of our listeners all the way from Anchorage to LA to Miami to New York. So with me is Josh Roland, and Josh Roland has sold, it's not just millions or tens of millions or even 100 million. He's like McDonald's. There's no more number on it. I don't know how much business this guy has sold, but he has sold more business in the ancillary space that they've just made him a poobah, grand poobah, or market leader of ancillary. And what ancillary means to those of you in the provider side is the non-medical stuff. And so he knows a lot more than just dental, but we're going to be talking about dental and how it's purchased, acquired in the employer healthcare, in the employer segment, right? Small group and large group employers. So with that, Josh is nodding his head, and I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to say, welcome back to the show. You're like a legacy folk here.
I think I am, Pat. I think I'm responsible for your success.
Yeah. Well, I will make a footnote in my book.
Thank you. Yes.
My book soon to arrive.
No, it's great to be back, Pat. It's always a good time with you. I enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So give us your official title, because I'm sure it's not actually Grand Poobah.
No, but now it's going to be.
There you go.
I hadn't heard that term in a while. I like it. I'm a market leader for Centro Benefits Research. So we are a general agency and center of excellence around ancillary benefits, and I do a lot of work all over the country with employer-sponsored dental, vision, life, disability, and voluntary benefits.
Gotcha. So let's start it out this way. And for those of you who don't know what 1/1 season, this is like, I think it's common knowledge, you do too, but not everybody does. It's like tax season for those of us in the insurance world. And so most large employers and even small employers renew their business or renew their benefits to coincide with the calendar year, which would be January 1. And so it is incredibly and insanely busy. I used to tell my wife.
It is. It's probably, I'm going to make up a number, but it's around 70%, I think, of insurance renews January 1, which means the 2 or 3 months before January 1 are pretty insane, as everybody's getting quotes and deciding on if they're going to switch plan designs, switch carriers, and have to go through that process, get everybody enrolled, get the new billing set up right. So it's busy.
Right. And so because of the medical, it goes out probably every year.
Every year, yeah.
Right. And so the employers, all of these companies, why do these companies go through this process?
Dental benefits are one of the most valued benefits that an employer offers. It's a big recruitment and retention play. Next to medical, if you're not offering dental as an employer, you're in a small group that's not offering dental. So employees are expecting it. In this world of the selfie, dental benefits are increasingly important because we all take pictures of our face and our teeth. So people want their face and teeth to look good. So dental and vision insurance have become very, very popular, and as the funding mechanism for people to get oral care. So it's quite important now.
Mm-hmm. I hear it all the time. Folks that say, well, I will go to the dentist, but I don't have dental insurance. And then I'm like, well, hey, time out, buddy. All right.
You can pay cash.
All right. And use your HSA or your FSA.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
My wife hates it when I do this, especially at dinner parties, but I can't. It's like a dog whistle. I can't stop it. I'm like, you're coming outside with me and you're at least going to
have a conversation about an FSA. Now, I would argue with you in the HSA. Because while you can use HSA for dental, HSA is supposed to stand for Health Savings Account, not Health Spending Account. HSA should be used for accumulating money for down the road, especially for expenses post age 65. But it is completely fine to use it for dental.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks, ladies and gentlemen, because that was an excellent point. So triple tax savings, by the way, best deal Uncle Sam has going that I know about.
Yes.
If you know a better deal, please hit me up at dentalbusinessradio.com. So what that means is it comes out of your check before tax, right? Mm-hmm. And then it grows in all of the growth. You can
invest it just like a 401k.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's all growth.
Growth tax-free.
Tax-free.
If you spend it on qualified expenses, you never pay any taxes on it.
Right. Qualified expenses being healthcare, right?
Healthcare, yeah.
Do you think that I'm going to use healthcare at some point?
Probably.
Do you think you will?
No.
No.
I'm immortal. We already had the poobah thing established there. So, yeah, I think that comes with immortality now.
But so 99% of our listeners are probably
mortals.
not immortal.
Yeah.
Right. So most of y'all out there. And then so that's the best deal Uncle Sam has going, especially if you are in, a middle to high tax bracket.
Mm-hmm. It can be an excellent saving mechanism because the employer can contribute to it. The employee can contribute to it. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so why more people aren't knowledgeable about that, I don't know. I feel like that's a whole show in itself.
It could be its own show. It's becoming more popular. We're starting to see a lot of people, I think, begin to understand the HSA. I think the biggest challenge was most HSA plans don't have copays. Mm-hmm. So you don't get to spend just $25 to go see a provider. You have to actually pay the cost of it. So there's a little bit difference in the plan design space there. But yeah, it's an excellent.
My wife didn't like, because I worked at Humana, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we met. I've known Josh for years. Humana was, they were like, we're the originator. They didn't originate it, but they push all their employees into it. And I'm like, this is awesome. And my wife, I explained it to my wife. I don't know how many times. She's like, I don't care. I just want my copay. And I'm like, you realize I am working. This is what I do for a living, and I can't. So you have to open your mind, folks. Healthcare is not free, and it's not tied to a copay, which is part of the reasons why folks think that they need dental insurance because they think it's too expensive, right? And that they need some sort of coverage for it.
Yes. It's used as a tool to help fund dental care.
Mm-hmm. But if you're metaphorical, let's say that you get diagnosed with a disease, cancer, health insurance is different.
Right, because health insurance is an unlimited benefit, whereas dental is a limited benefit. So most dental plans will only pay between $1,000 and maybe $3,000 in a year per member. So if you rack up a $25,000 dental bill, it's not going to cover all of that, whereas your medical plan would cover all of that. But it's rare to incur over $2,000 in dental expenses in a year.
So I run around the country now and talk on stage, believe it or not. And
when you're as beautiful as you are, it's why deny the public?
It's a makeup and lights, baby. And so I talk to mostly providers. I do talk to insurance companies occasionally when they want to. And so, but the provider's like, oh, dental insurance are all, evil and da-da-da. But the one question I do get is how come the benefit level hasn't changed from $1,000, and they're like, it's because they're just trying to keep the money, hasn't changed. And that's this is one of the symptoms of why dental insurance companies are evil. And so let me just ask you, because you're not an evil guy. And you're not the dental insurance company anyway. Sure. So give us a straight dope here, dude.
Actually, I would push back a little bit and say that I think dental plans are changing. I'm seeing a lot of $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 dental plans now, even some unlimited dental plans. I have to correct myself. I said before, there are no unlimited dental plans. There actually can be. And
FedVib.
It's becoming FIB. It's becoming a excellent tool for recruitment and retention, because as all things have gone up in inflation, dental obviously has as well. It's something, I don't want to blame it on the brokers, because I am one, but I think brokers were spending so much time focusing on medical because the cost of medical was going up so fast that dental plans kind of atrophied, not because of the insurance carriers. I think it was more because of the brokers, and employers were focusing on other areas in the employee benefit space. And now in this kind of post-COVID world, dental and vision too are becoming much more top of mind, and we're seeing a lot of interest in redesigning dental plans, making dental plans more rich, because I can double the value of a dental plan for a lot less than I can double the value of a medical plan. And more people may engage the dental plan in a year than may engage the medical plan. So it's something that does have a high utilization in it. And that's also bled over into life insurance, disability insurance, and these other benefits where, again, in this post-COVID world, we're all a little bit more aware of our mortality and the impact of that mortality on our family standard of living. So life insurance and disability insurance provided through the employer is becoming much more top of mind for employees and employers as they're doing this. And dental and vision benefits get kind of lumped in that ancillary space of the things that are not medical, because it all really is about protecting the standard of living, right? Dental insurance enhances our current standard of living. I would argue vision insurance, even though it's not really insurance, but it does the same thing. Life and
makes you happier
and prettier. Life and disability insurance protect your current standard of living if the worst were to happen. And then we get into the work side or voluntary benefits like accident, critical illness, things like that. That protects your standard of living at retirement. People usually kind of say, hang on, how does a critical illness policy protect my standard of living at retirement? And it's because if you have a major event happen to you or a covered family member, like a cancer or a heart attack, you're going to spend more than your out-of-pocket maximum. You're going to have to travel somewhere to get something done, potentially. You may have to have someone take care of your house while you're gone. So you're going to incur a decent amount of expenses. And I don't know about you, Pato, but I can't write a $30,000 check if I had to go do something like that. But a critical illness policy could help cover that so that I wouldn't have to take a loan out of my 401k to cover that. So there's a story from my own life. 3 years ago, my son, who's 14 now, he began to have some very bizarre symptoms, and we took him after a week of a rising fever and rashes and very odd things down to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. They did a great job with him. But he was in the pediatric ICU for, I believe, 11 days.
Really?
And they ended up finding what it is, and he's totally fine now. But for 11 days, my wife and I lived at the hospital. So I was not working. We had to have someone take care of my daughter. Someone had to take care of the house. We were eating out constantly, paying for hotel rooms. So I could have had a loss of wages. Disability insurance doesn't pay if you're taking off work to take care of a family member. So someone could have loss of wages. Yes, the out-of-pocket maximum, but then all these other living expenses that were incurred around that medical event that happened with my son. So that's what critical illness is really there to help provide the cash for that. So that's why I say it protects the standard of living at retirement, because if we have to take out a loan against a 401k to cover that expense, I've now impacted my standard of living at retirement. Even if I pay that loan back with interest over 10 years, I've still lost out on the investment growth in addition to that there could have been inside of that cash. So sorry, I just went off on a tangent.
That's an excellent point, though.
That's ancillary benefits, of which dental is a kingpin of.
And like it or not, the healthcare delivery model in this country is via employers. And so as an employer myself, I feel somewhat responsible to put together some sort of package, especially somebody who's educated in risk management and finance, for my team. Because my team make my company go, right? Everybody's like, it's our people. It's our people, Josh. It's our people. And that's really true. It is your people. So you need to take care of
Take
them,
care of 'em.
right? Especially if you are in a business where the talent is hard to find and you like continuity, having the same face there that you lean on, but also that your patients lean on for the provider community. And in the insurance world, it's the same thing.
And talent's going to get harder to find too. I've seen a bunch of demographic studies around the employable workforce, and it's not heading in a good direction. We're going to be fighting for talent for the next 20 years.
I feel like we're fighting for talent right now, for sure. And one of the reasons that it's difficult for a small business like mine to compete with a larger business like rating an insurance company for their talent, which I'm doing anyway. So
I won't tell.
yeah, it's all right. They listen to the show. It's cool. We're boys. We ain't girls. We're colleagues. Listen, we want to be friends. And if you don't know it yet, you still want to be my friend. You just don't know it yet. That's right.
Everybody wants to be your friend, Pato. Come on.
Yes. Well, they just may not know it. That's how I think. It is how I think. And so, the ancillary for small groups is easier, not easier, but more accessible for a small employer.
You can get ancillary benefits down to 2 employees.
Right.
So, and the almost all products can be offered. The carriers may change based on the size segment, but even a 5-employee group can get good dental, vision, life, and disability and worksite voluntary benefits coverage. So,
You know what's crazy to me is that I talk to our clients are dentists and oral surgeons and endodontists, and they want dental insurance.
they do. It's actually, it's funny. It's hard for a dentist to get dental insurance.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think the carriers are afraid they can get abused because the dentist would know how to work the system.
It kind of puzzles me a little bit.
Disability is expensive too, but that's just because it's a high risk. It's such a specialized job, and it's a high income job, and those are the 2 things that drive premium inside of a disability policy. So dentists need them, but it is expensive.
They should have a group policy though for the team, and then they should have their own individual policy.
Yeah. So a group policy, there's a lot of flexibility in those policies. So the broker should be working with the practice owner or the practice manager to walk through the different elements inside that disability policy, what it can cover, what it cannot cover, and how the prices will adjust based on that. And usually a group policy will cover, up to $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000 a month of income, depending on the size of the employer. But most dentists are going to need disability coverage over that. It's called IDI, usually individual disability income insurance. And there's lots of avenues to purchase that. And you can get that to cover up to, $10,000 a month of income if they wanted to. But again, it gets expensive for dentists and surgeons just because of the nature of their work, that the risk is significant to the carrier.
Because you guys are rich and ladies.
And talented.
Rich and talented and have beautiful smiles. Bet you didn't use dental insurance.
When I was growing up, I had a dentist that didn't have good teeth. I still remember that. That's just a weird.
Doesn't that seem?
Yeah, it's kind of like
it's like
a skinny cook. Never trust a skinny cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
That's why I should be a cook. I've already got the not skinny down.
All right. Well, if that was all you needed, and you got to I cooked. I was worked in the kitchen when I was in high school. So you're working every Friday, Saturday night, most Sundays,
so
holidays. Yeah. No, it's fun in there. It's like beautiful chaos in the kitchen. And I do know how to cook. It's, besides my, show, I guess, and my profession, what I do for a hobby, I guess, is cook.
What do you cook?
I can grill anything. I can saute a lot of different stuff, make seafood, but I can work a grill like nobody's business.
I think a perfectly seared scallop is one of the hardest things to achieve.
It is.
As a professional eater, that's my opinion.
Gotcha. I can hook you up, but we need to get good scallops. I won't eat it. Especially shellfish. Yeah. If a shrimp touches my plate, I am like the princess and the pea. I am not eating. I will know it, and I am not eating it. Wow. I can eat like whitefish, and the crazy thing is I like sashimi, right? I like raw salmon. To me is awesome. It tastes totally different, and my wife loves my cooked salmon, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm like, meh. That's what my 14-year-old says. I don't know if yours does. Meh.
Yeah.
One of his half of his vocabulary.
I was about to say it's one of the 3 words they say.
Yeah, meh,
fine. I don't know.
It's whatever. Yeah.
You asked the most complicated question. I don't know. It was fine.
Yeah. So disability insurance, back to that point, let me just say that I am also professionally certified in disability. People
very
don't,
good.
Yeah, people don't know that. But it is very nuanced, and to me, it's real insurance. So make sure that you're talking to somebody who knows what they're doing, and they're not sticking some sort of policy in there because they're trying to get a bonus or something like that.
You can always buy cheaper disability insurance. It is a very complicated product, but insurance is a simple concept. There's risk and there's premium. If one of them goes up, the other one goes down. So if premium goes up, risk goes down, which is good for the insured. If premium goes down, risk goes up, which means the insured is taking more of the risk. So not that we ever want to overpay for disability insurance, but I always caution people about always trying to save money on disability insurance, because oftentimes down in the fine print of the contract, you could be taking on more risk yourself in certain situations. I'm a person that loves horrible and cheesy phrases, and one of the ones I love about disability is that it is a terrible waste of money to overpay for disability insurance, but it is an equally terrible waste to underpay for it. I'll just let that sink in.
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have to get a chart for DJ John Ray, or DJ John Ray over there. He's like, I don't know. He's like,
He didn't buy it.
So I'm going to tie this back into dental though. Mm-hmm. All right. So dental, because I've said this to you, I get a lot of questions. And so you and I know more about this than we care to brag about. It doesn't make us a hit at parties, right? But for the purpose of the show, when I'm like, look, you want $3,000 benefit? I'll put it in there. You want implants? I'll put it in there. You want $10,000 benefit? I'll put it in there. You want gold teeth? I'll put that in there. I'll put whatever you want. As the person or the sales executive for an insurance company who has sold millions of dollars of dental insurance, it is irrelevant to me what you want in there.
You can put anything in there.
Right. And so
how much do you want to pay?
It's right. It's the premium.
Yeah.
And so whoever the decision makers are, and then these decision makers are grappling with the high cost of medical, which is still out of control.
And will be for the next 4 years. I think we're going to see some challenging medical renewals for
a
whole lot of reasons that we'll spare people listening to about.
Yeah. I think it'll be like that forever and ever and ever, because it has been. Anyway, I digress. So you got that. Then you've got the dental. And so there's a war for talent. But then you got the disability. And so you've got all of these things. And so the brokers, the benefit consultants out there, bless your hearts. God bless you, not bless your heart.
It's a very different thing.
Very different thing.
Different thing.
I pulled back right away. And so they have to then articulate this to folks that that's not their business too. And so it's really important that you get experts over there. But with dental, that's how it works. Like the insurance company are not evil. They are simply financing vehicles. Okay. That's it. Yeah, and so they don't decide, the employer. So I'm going to make a statement and then let's discuss. All right.
Okay.
The employer, by and large, for the most part, the employers are making the decisions on what's covered, what's not covered.
That is correct, because the employers are presented a list of options by the broker saying, hey, here's how we could design the dental plan. How would you like to design it? And there are 50 or more benefit triggers that can be pulled as far as what's covered, not covered, how much it's covered. Do we want to cover teeth whitening? Do we not want to cover teeth whitening? There's a lot of things that can be done outside that. So the employer is making that final decision, and then the employee selects yes or no, and then what family members they want to cover.
Right. And so another question or concern, or let's call it negative feedback, or AKA complaints that I hear from the crowd out there. And so for those of you who haven't seen me live, it's actually a very good show. People think it's going to be boring. It's not. I'm like, hey, what's in it? It's interactive. And so they're like, well, they just downgraded. Nobody does amalgam. And I'm like, you're right. Nobody does do amalgam fillings. Amalgam fillings, for those of you who don't know, are silver fillings. And so I think that there was one guy in Georgia that did it that I knew of, but I think he passed away. And I know at least one that whole business is dedicated to pulling that out.
Yeah. Because there can be some health.
Right.
Concern.
So at any rate, they're like, well, are they doing that? Nobody does them anyway. It's the least expensive alternative treatment. And so they want me, because I negotiate the contracts, they want me to make it their contract to where it doesn't do that. And I was like, the employer insured, the certificate of coverage supersedes.
That's what's deciding that, because the employer could say, no, we want to cover composites for everything.
Right.
Now, there's going to be an increase in cost of that. And there's are not that games are ever played, but there can be some things done where they say, yes, we'll cover composites, but at the rate that we pay for amalgams.
Well, that's how the least expensive alternative treatment or the LEAT provision works. So they're still paying for it.
Yeah.
But the difference is,
but you can say, I want it covered at amalgams, period. I'm sorry, at a composites, period.
they can do that. The employers can do that. And if you're
but they have to know to ask. The employer has to know to ask for that, because that's getting into the weeds on dental.
That's what we do here.
That's right. Ooh, that would be a great title. In the weeds on dental.
In the weeds on dental.
Should be like a 1 a.m. show.
Hashtag.
In the weeds on dental and aliens.
Trademark. Hashtag. In the weeds on dental. I love having you on. It's funny.
I'm way too random to be allowed to be on.
Yeah, I like it. I can dance, baby. Let's dance. I should shout out to Mike Davis. Dr. Mike Davis out of New Mexico is the only person who came on here, and I guess I wasn't expecting it. He came out here, and I was like riding a bull with Mike Davis. Man, that was wild. And so he's the only one that caught me off guard. I didn't realize I had to have my dancing shoes on. But next time, Mike, I got you. So now we're in 1/1 season. All of these employers are making these choices.
Yes.
You are right in the middle of this hurricane. You're in. So thank you very much for coming in during 1/1 season. And
one of my favorite songs is Rock Me Like a Hurricane.
Really?
Phenomenal guitar solos. I'm an old guitar player, so.
Is that right? Yeah. So you're multi-talented individual. You're like a Renaissance man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hence the Grand Poobah reference from earlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not letting you forget that, and I'm going to put it on my business card.
Very good. I'll get you a nameplate. We have stuff we give to guests here, and it's Business RadioX material. DJ John Ray gives it out, and so I was trying to think of a good gift, Dentist Business Radio. So those of you out in listener land, why don't you hit me up at Pat_J_O'Rourke on the gram, or tell me what would be a good gift. So like for Josh, a nameplate, Grand Poobah.
I like that.
Should I individual gifts out there, or should I create a one gift for, I don't know. Yeah. I digress. So where was I going with this? I was going back to the employers. So you are seeing all the renewals come up. So yes. We know medical trend, and trend means the cost, guys. So that means that the cost went up. And so
it's inflation,
right? Inflation,
medical inflation. Yep. And then it also depends on how much claims are being expended. So how profitable the case is for the insurance carrier.
Right.
So if you spend $1 in premium and cost $100 or $1.30 in claims, you're going to get a big increase.
Rule number 1, don't lose money.
Yes.
Okay. So have you seen any, let's talk about utilization for a moment. Mm-hmm. All right. Because post-COVID, right? COVID threw everything off. What are you seeing as far as any trends in utilization or claims renewals this year?
I think we're through, and it to some degree can be regionalized, but I think we're through a lot of the gyrations coming out of COVID. I think we're kind of leveling off at if a plan is running well, expect a 3 to 5, 6% increase. If a plan is not running well, meaning that claims are higher than they should be, the increase will be based on how many claims are being paid out. So, but I think we're in a decent cycle of, call it 3 to 6%.
Okay.
But that is to some degree regionalized.
Right. And obviously it's going to depend on the group and the region. Yeah. All healthcare is local. Mm-hmm. I don't care what the private equity people told you. Listen, that's why it's America, because we all have our own opinions, don't we? So with that said, right, so there's 3 to 5. So it's been stabilized after, because nobody knew how to price it really, afterwards. And then like utilization was down clearly, right?
Because we didn't know, was it going to spike? Was there going to be a whole lot of cavities and other work needing to be done because people weren't being treated for a while? So yeah, but I think we're through all that.
Okay. So let's go into trends and not trend, not experience trends. No. Benefit characteristic fads, new things
that are coming.
We call it the sizzle.
Oh, the sizzle.
Let's talk about the sizzle.
Okay, let's talk about the sizzle.
All right.
a lot of people want to look at benchmarking data. And I think benchmarking has some degree of usefulness, but it's limited because benchmarking in its base is backwards looking. So people fill out surveys and we take that data and we turn it into a benchmark. So let's say the data is 6 months old by the time we turn it into a benchmarking report. But what that means, though, is if people were filling out their benchmarking surveys as far as what dental plan designs they have as employers, that means they were thinking about building those dental plan designs a year or two before that. Mm-hmm. So if we really want to know what the employer population was thinking about building dental plans as 2.5 years ago, we can pull a benchmarking report and get that. What I think people really want to know, though, is what are employers thinking about in that sizzle, as you said, Pat, for 2026, 2027, and 2028 plan design years. That's more of like a future state best practice model. There's not really reports that we can pull for this. It's largely anecdotal just because of, we can't really predict the future, but I do work with thousands of employers.
You can't predict the future?
Well, as Grand Poobah I can. But we have a pretty good feel for what employers are interested in looking at in the next few years. Increasing annual maxes is absolutely one of those. So I think we're going to see a lot more of $2,000 annual maxes and higher. Mm-hmm. We're going to see, I think, a migration to higher out-of-network payments. So we're going to look at maybe the 95th or the 99th percentile of usual, customary, and reasonable. Those things
I almost want to cut that out of this. There's like a whole fee-for-service only movement. I'll talk about it in a second, but continue.
And then throwing additional things into the dental plan. I joked about teeth whitening. I'm getting more questions about teeth whitening. And can we cover teeth whitening at 50% up to $500, let's say? I'm seeing interest in making ortho a yearly benefit, not a lifetime benefit.
That's got to be really expensive, though.
It is. But again, really expensive in dental is relative, especially compared to medical. A really expensive dental plan for a single employee may be $80 a month in premium. That's a really expensive dental plan. A really expensive medical plan is like $2,500 a month in premium. So it's a much smaller dollar amount. So
I get it.
It is relative. But if you're used to a $30 premium and we say, hey, let's do a $60 premium, well, that's a 100% increase. That's a huge increase. But it's a huge increase in percentage, not necessarily in price. And I'm not advocating that we need to be going to $60 dental plans. I'm just reinforcing your point from before that we can build anything we want into dental insurance. There's just going to be a cost associated with it.
Right. And if don't lose sight of the overall goal, which is to attract and retain talent. Mm-hmm. Now, I just had a random thought, which is
dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous because I used to do a lot of like deferred comp, and then I'm like, well, can I tell you if I'm going to buy new implants and I'm going to put Invisalign in on a yearly benefit, and I'm going to get everybody in your family to look like
like me,
like Josh Roland, right? Exactly, and Julia Roberts,
and better looking than she is. Come on.
Well, I mean that's for the other side, the other gender. Or whatever you're into that has, like, we're not judging, by the way, blah, blah, blah. How am I going to tie that in, though? Like, you have.
I was just trying to throw you off.
Yeah, and you did.
That whole
the 401k,
I was trying to throw you off.
I can tie them in and say, hey, you can't leave. Like, we're gonna do this match. Like, you're gonna hold them to it, right? But you can't do that with dental. No, you this can't. Is what my challenge for you. I'm going to throw down the gauntlet.
Lose the plan.
Well, they're going to lose the plan, but then they could get all the work done, and then they could leave. They could just use the company, get the work done, and then leave.
Yes, they could.
Right. And so my challenge
what if
to you
didn't have that plan and they never came to the company?
All right. I knew there was a hole in my thinking there. But still, is there a way?
There's still that. That is a real problem, though. Yes, if you make a benefit too rich, you can get used.
Okay. And if you're going to get used, you want to get used on that versus, I don't know,
versus
a huge cancer claim, right? Chronic illness, life insurance, disability.
I think employers are more concerned with the retention side. Strong benefits does help retain,
right? And so that's what I'm trying to get to, and I'm like, how? if you leave, you got to give one of your teeth back, right?
And that I've never heard of that. That's interesting.
If it's removable prosthodontics, you could do it.
You'd be
like, those dentures stay here.
There's a vesting schedule on your
That's what I'm
dental
talking
work.
about.
Yeah. Where if you leave within 5 years, you only own 20% of your teeth.
Mm-hmm. And then
for 5 years, at the end of 5 years, you have it all. That's interesting.
Right. And then you got to rent it. You got to pay rent on the teeth because we're not going to take them out. Like, we're not savages, right?
Well. Pat, see, Pat, that's why I love your show, because we go to some very dark places.
Yes. Yep.
I don't think that's allowed, just so the E&O carriers are happy. We can't do that, but yes,
right.
That's a funny thought. But yes, we do want to make sure that, I guess we can't make sure, but it would be bad if people were abusing employers for their benefits.
For sure. And by the way,
we're against that officially.
Yes. And anything that's discussed here is not a qualified substitute for legal counsel licensed to practice law in your state or any other profession, and some of it is just kind of being as our attempts at being witty. So don't take some of it too seriously, and chill out, cool breeze. We have had compliance folks on here.
Oh
yeah, if you're FINRA or you're anybody like then they gotta listen to the show, and then they're like, you know what, man, that's some funny stuff. That's some good stuff. You didn't say anything that was wrong. And if people don't get your jokes, I mean, we
should all be able to take jokes better, I think.
Amen. We were talking about this earlier. So you're not allowed to make fun of people if you can't laugh at yourself. All right. So we laugh at ourselves here very much. And I mean, listen, dude, it's insurance. And that's what some people you should, I've got to tape it. They come off there like, this guy's going to be so boring, and then I get them.
Because insurance guys get a bad reputation as being boring people.
Right.
Now, I'm worse, though, because I don't play golf. One thing insurance guys are good at is playing golf.
I'm not, though.
I've been on a golf course 3 times in my life.
It's awful.
Yeah. Now, one of those times was at St. Andrews, which was...
Is that a golf course?
That's where golf was born.
Is it a hospital?
No, it's in the UK. It's on the coast. It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful golf course in the world. But my brother-in-law was getting his PhD up there, so we got to go out and see the golf course. And even as someone who doesn't play golf, that was meaningful to get to walk on that course a little bit and see the birthplace of the sport. So
that's why I try to play golf. I own golf clubs. I'll go out there, but
I don't even own them.
Yes, if it's a nice day, like it's beautiful, it's fall. When I was working at Humana, like everybody disappeared Thursday, Fridays. I'm like, where's everybody? And they're like, oh, they're playing golf. And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are all playing golf and drinking? You're walking. It's beautiful. Like I'm in, but it goes against every natural athletic instinct I've ever had in my entire life. I've taken lessons, and I graduated from like embarrassingly god awful to just god awful.
Well, that's a good move. It's improvement.
Well, I wasn't hitting past the ladies' tee, and there's a certain rule apparently about that, which involves lewd conduct.
I have not played golf enough to know.
Oh yeah, I'll have to tell you that story off the air. And it's actually a pretty funny story. I should tell a story on the air. What do I care? And hey, DJ John Ray, does the FTC, we're not regulated, right? He says, say whatever you want. Yeah. Just worry about your own businesses. One of the reasons why I own my own business is so I get to say whatever the hell I want.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that.
It's liberating. Let me tell you, it's not.
I don't own mine, so I can't say whatever I want.
Right. It's not free. Like right. They say, the First Amendment. It's not free, and it's not. It definitely has its headaches, but what is one of the like cherished benefits that I have.
I like that. Let me ask you a question, Pato.
Okay.
AI.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to change dental?
Big time. So I sat in a session with Amal near Good Car, Practice Prism, who was a guest on this show, and he was at the GDA, but he's all over the place. Amal is like celebrity friggin'. He's everywhere. And so shout out to Amal, who's I met him down in St. Pete because that's in Tampa. Actually, I met him in Tampa. I'm from the T, and he moved up here. He's in the ATL now, although he's all over the place. So shout out to Amal. Anyways, Amal is one sharp dude, and so he just broke it down and was like, here's what. AI is coming, right? And then here's all the cool things that it can do. And it was somewhat scary. Like I could tell you that there was a level of uncomfortableness within the provider community.
Interesting.
But probably not as much as I would say for other communities. I'm going to just, what popped in my head was like an attorney, right? Because the AI can write the contracts and do all the blah, 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 right? Or, no, I'm not saying that. They can't do that. All my lawyer friends, absolutely. That you cannot be replaced.
If AI writes the contract, could an AI beat the contract then?
Right.
So is that when an immovable force is an unstoppable force hits an immovable object?
Right.
Destroying my metaphors.
And so then you have like the claims. So you have AI on the doc side, submitting the claims, and then you have AI on the insurance company side,
trying not to pay the claims.
Adjudicate the claims, right? And so they're just tangoing back and forth, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and learning from each other. And then what happens? I don't know. What I'm guessing what would happen is that claims just don't get paid, right?
But it got refiled 6 billion times.
But then you have to go do the prompt pay stuff, right? Then you hit the prompt pay laws by state, depends on which state you're in. And then you have to pay interest, and then the government would have to come into play, but that they are not going to have the best technology.
That's true.
And so that's where you'll bottleneck right there.
That's interesting.
That's my theory.
I see a game show in there somewhere where we've got competing AIs filing claims. I think you and I would be the only people that would watch it, though.
All right. But we would have to get a gong for sure.
Yes.
A gong. All these other shows that have like buttons and stuff. No,
that's no fun.
No, you need a gong. You got to get up with a big thing, bang, that gong. That's what I say.
So I'm going to wake my son up in the morning from now on. He will not get out of bed. Oh my! I made him walk to school today. Because I was tired of us being late to pick up his friend. It's like, you're walking. It's like, and then the 3 words he knows, Dad. Oh, whatever.
I can tell you what my son will say at all times. Right? It's a soundtrack. It goes, yeah, got it.
I like the got it though, because that's at least acknowledging.
He's
understanding.
He's a smart kid, right? And so that's what he just, okay. Sure, got it, And so he's not listening to one thing.
Oh, he's just saying that to him.
Oh yeah. Whenever there's a pause in the noise that's outside of his AirPod, that's what he does.
It's a fun thing to do.
What's that?
It's to turn off the Wi-Fi in the house randomly.
Yeah, he's wise up to that.
Oh,
my daughter has not.
You hear the screams.
I tell them the internet's broke.
Yeah.
And they better go outside because the internet won't fix itself. So, you
might as well go do something.
And I'm like, if they don't see kids playing, they're not going to send the magic man to fix the internet and go outside. So he's wised up to that, unfortunately. But I'm still bigger than he is. And then, if I wanted to, I could just, and I could just turn it off, right? If I really wanted to, I could be like, I'm just not going to pay it.
Yeah, you pay it. You get a job.
Yes.
No, but that AI thing's interesting though, because I was just curious. Because it really is going to change the insurance industry in so many ways, and the way the insurance industry and the provider industry interact was not something I had thought much about. And I like that you talked about that, because there's a lot there.
So I was at NADP last year in San Diego, and I got AI'd out. It was just so much. It was so overwhelming. And that was just on the insurance company side. So this is when you say hot topic in our world, right?
Right.
For the insurance companies, it's just huge. But it's also huge in the dental provider side. So all of your DSOs are looking into this, and there are companies that have it. And they're doing it, and they are building it, and they're building it faster and faster and faster. And so I would think it would be, and I don't want to speak to it because I don't feel like I can speak to it as intelligently as like say a mall could or somebody from one of the other companies could. I might have them on the show, and maybe if I can have them come in, like we could all have like a little table discussion.
Yeah.
If you really want to know.
Yeah. I think that'd be a great conversation because we need to be having those conversations because these conversations will help shape the future of what this is going to be. If the insurance people and the provider people aren't talking about this also, then everything will be crafted by the technologists. And so we need to be inserting our voices in there.
Right. Because the programmers,
employers need to be inserting their voices in there. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
It wasn't my original idea. I stole that from our CIO.
You want to give a shout out to him?
I don't know that I'm allowed to. I love him though. He's great.
Okay. Random unnamed dude. We love you. Good job. All right. So AI is going to be kind of the next topic, and maybe we should bring them all back on the show. And since he's around here, maybe if you wanted to come, then we could.
I would love just to sit and listen. I'm just fascinated by it. I think it's
he blew my mind.
Get it that well.
Blew my mind at this thing. And so, and he runs around and talks, and it, like, you know how somebody's clicking through their PowerPoint, you know, because I've got one, right? And so where you're only getting 1/3 of it, right? Because you're sticking on the point because and
he's going that fast.
You have to explain that one thing, right? And so I have PowerPoints to me are just to enhance a presentation. I use images because I assume that the people can read, right? Yeah. And so, but I could be on an image of Medicare and explain Medicare for forever, right? And so there's a lot of changes in Medicare, believe it or not. Yeah. So what's crazy about that is the same thing. So the benefits have changed. So it used to be awful because of adverse selection, right? And so what would happen, right? Because if you got your choice of 20 benefit plans, why would you take the one with dental? Because you're going to use it. Right. Adverse selection, people. At any rate, what's happened is Medicare has continued to boom with the baby boomers. Pun definitely intended, dad joke. Anyway, and so the Medicare, everybody wants, so Humana completely divested its employer group business. They didn't even sell it. They just like, nah, we're done. We're just going to focus on this.
Which shows you how, I think, big that's going to be.
Right. And so there's the major carriers are putting the boomers had company benefits. So they had dental insurance.
They're used to them.
They want it.
Yeah.
And so they're like, they finally figured out what was just turned into a loss leader here. So I see $3,000 benefits with zero coinsurance. Zero.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's phenomenally rich.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, just go crazy. And so this trend has been happening for probably about the past 2 years. And, then they had the CMS tried to get the docs to opt in, opt out, or do nothing at all for probably about 10 years, which is pretty funny, guys. Because the one thing about general dentists in particular is that herding cats is not descriptive enough. And so I would ask clients, I'm like, did you opt in, opt out, do nothing at all? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And then I would explain it, and they're like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah. And they're like, next, or no comment or something like, or they would just opt out. And so now we have a bunch of folks, especially in the South, and specialists, and they're like, we opted out. And I'm like, that doesn't matter anymore. So now it ties to the MA contracts are tied to the commercial PPO contracts, but there has to be an addendum because of all the compliance, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I was going to say that, but you said it first. So
I have to say something smart to make sure I don't know. I know what I'm talking about. And I need to bring something to the table for you because I think that in the employer market, if you're doing any employer group Medicare, it's going to come into play there.
That's where my brain was going with that. That's very interesting.
And that is something that you could, if I'm a benefit broker and I want to differentiate myself, I'm going to I'm going to at least understand that space and what's changing in that space and why.
Fantastic point.
Right. So all of my benefit consultant friends, hopefully that made the price of admission worthwhile for you.
Yeah.
Also AI, worthwhile, that will be coming up. And then let's just recap our employer business, what we are seeing, or what Josh Roland, the grand poobah of ancillary benefits in the United States of America, as seeing a lot of benefit increases, and certainly a lot more focus on ancillary benefits as a whole. Mm-hmm. So dental, vision, life, DI, even, throwing your worksite, what used to be called worksite products.
Yeah, there are worksite products, voluntary products, supplemental products. There's, just like in all insurance things, there's 10 names and 15 acronyms for them. But yes.
And I think in insurance we have more. We
get paid based on how many acronyms and names we come up with, so that's why.
That's why we drive nice cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll buy that.
So I think the theme I'm seeing is a leaning into of these benefits by employers and brokers, not to necessarily reduce them, but to enhance them for the purpose of recruitment and retention. If I were to sum all that up in a nice little bow.
That was good. That was very good.
Just snip that and put that at the very beginning, and it can be a very short podcast.
I don't think DJ John Ray edits these. I think he just throws them out there. Yeah. Live from Atlanta, this is your host, Patrick O'Rourke. And so benchmarking reports, I thought that was actually fascinating.
Yeah, and benchmarking has usefulness, but I think looking forward is more important than looking backwards in this space. And that's why it helps to talk to people that spend a lot of time working forward so that they can help show what employers are thinking about doing going forward. Too many forwards.
People are always asking, what are other people doing? I need to see the other, dentists too, by the way, guys. Listen, this is just a dentist joke. Don't take it all serious. One thing about dentists that I found, right? They won't do a damn thing unless another dentist says it's okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is common knowledge too, by the way. So whenever I'm at a meeting, I'm like, you would think that you guys all drive the same car, have the same haircut or something, And so little dentist joke there for you today, but benchmarking report, it also reminds me what you said about looking backwards and not forward. The old insurance joke about this, how if insurance was a car, they'd have the sales executive got his foot mashed on the accelerator, and then the underwriter's got his foot mashed on the brake, and then the actuary's in the back seat looking out the back window, looking at what's behind them and directing the car.
That's a really good one. I had not heard that one before, and I'm stealing it.
All right. Well, feel free to appropriate it. Hashtag Dental Business Radio. So I think that I'm getting it all wrapped up. So if people want to get in touch with the great Josh Roland, how do they do that?
LinkedIn's the only way to do it. I am not on social media. I got off social media 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Froze and deleted all my accounts. I was terrified for 6 months, thought I was missing out on everything. Turns out I wasn't, and my blood pressure went down. So I don't have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, any of these things, and I feel better for it.
You look better.
Thank you. But I do have LinkedIn because,
Right. If you're not on LinkedIn, you don't exist.
You don't exist.
In the professional world.
Right.
Yes. You can find me as well on LinkedIn. And you could go to www.dentalbusinessradio.com. Also, shout out to our sponsor, Practice Quotient. That's practice, and then it's Quotient, Quot as in Tom, IEN as in Nancy, T.com.
Oh, it's a hard word to spell.
It's
but shout out to them.
Yeah, thank you. The entire team at Practice Quotient. And by the way, if you have a challenge with anything that we say on this show, feel free to call up the sponsor and complain. Okay? And you can find them at www.practicequotient.com or 470-592-1680.
Maybe.
Probably. All right. I'd like to thank DJ John Ray. As always, you are the Jazzy Jeff to my Fresh Prince. And I would like to thank His Honor, Grand Poobah, Mr. Josh Roland.
Happy to be here, Pat.